Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, hanging out with a couple of nerds today. Obviously, you guys probably know Nerdarchy as Ted, but we also have Tyler Walpole here, and he is a prolific artist that it might be easier for us to like name some more of the things that he hasn't done, but you've been all over in the industry: D&D, Pathfinder, Evil Hat Productions, Magic the Gathering. So quite extensive, quite impressive.
Indeed.
Yeah, like I said, I managed to stay pretty busy over the years. Pretty lucky that way.
Well, you have fantastic work, so that also helps a bit too, I think.
Oh, well, thanks.
We were talking a little bit beforehand, and you were basically saying how you've gotten to a point where the work kind of comes to you, but on these last couple of Dresden Files projects, you actually worked to get those because you were personally interested in working on that property.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the series. So the way it started was a couple of years ago. I worked with Fred on Star Hero for Hero Games. He was the art director on that. I did the cover. Fred Fields is one of the creative directors for Evil Hat. And I had seen that there was a Dresden Files role-playing game, and I started just bugging the crap out of them, and it's like, hey, when are you going to do more content? Because I want to do covers, or I want to do interiors, whatever. Because I want to spend more time in that series than the books will allow. So there's only so much content, but if I get to, get paid to make some art for it, then I'm in a very happy place. So, and then eventually they did the Paranet papers, and Fred remembered that I really wanted to do some stuff, and so he pinged me to do that. And shortly after that, I had a chance to meet Jim and Fred at Gen Con. That's where I sort of they released the cover there, so I had some prints. And then I asked Jim about the possibility of doing a limited edition print of Dresden Files. So we did a print run I made a painting just for that. We did a print run of 250, and I live in Des Moines, and this is when Jim was living in Kansas City, so I was able to drive down to his house and just we hung out and signed all 250 of them. So that was kind of awesome. As a fan, I was like, yeah, just go to Jim Butcher's house, no big deal. It's fine.
Instagramming like every 10 minutes.
It was great. When I pulled into the driveway, it was, it's a big old house. I was not sure if I was in the right place. So I'm kind of tepidly walking up to the door, and I look down and I see a LARP spell bag laying on the ground. I was like, oh, this is the place.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes me love Jim Butcher more than just a normal author, is that I know his passion for LARPing. And myself and the other Nerdarchy guy, Nate, we did LARPing for many years. We actually ran our own LARP for about 5. And it just was like, okay, well, we need to get on with adult life, and we needed to, step back and allow others to run the game. It was a blast. I totally miss it.
So also real quick, Evil Hat has been nice enough to donate some things to give away during this stream. So once we get more people on here, we'll figure out how we're going to give them away. We're going to have the co-op card game, as well as the Fate Accelerated rulebook?
Yep.
Yeah, which that's pretty awesome. I'm like, can we win?
Yeah, I don't have the stuff yet. I've got the digital versions, but I need to get the physical books. So I think that's going to happen this Christmas. Need to make that happen.
I've got the Fate Core Dresden Files book, and I've read like halfway through it. It's written really well, and it's actually a really good read.
Yeah, I thought it was the most entertaining rule book I've ever read. It's just funny.
It's definitely written in the flavor of Dresden Files. So that's why I want the physical book. I'm tired of having to use the digital.
Yeah, and the section on building your city is like one of the coolest parts of that book. Like, you could definitely take that section by itself and rip it out and use it in other role-playing games easily, especially if you want to give your players more agency and have more of a cooperative game.
that's so I haven't played a whole lot of Fate system. We just did, you know, I've really just played the Dresden Files one with a group, and that is totally my favorite aspect of the idea that, you know, in D&D usually it's, you know, the story's worked out and the GM is guiding you through it, and you're trying to mess up their plans. But in the Fate system, it feels way more like you're all building a story together. I don't know. I find it just really, really engaging and kind of a fresh take on role playing. So I think it's a really cool system.
Now, did you dive into the Fate core system for Dresden Files, or the Accelerated?
It's Fate core because I wasn't. Yeah, the new book wasn't out yet. That just came out at Origins this year.
So, what can you, for anyone who hasn't checked it out yet, what can you tell us about Fate Accelerated?
I haven't had a chance to really look through it a whole lot. It's written by Pamela Alexander, and she's a wonderful writer, and captures a lot of the tone of the Dresden Files series, you know, just like in the Dresden Files core book. I do know that they streamlined the magic system a lot, which was one of the things that was a little bit hinky in the first one. So it's the same game. It's just everything's streamlined a little bit. So again, one of the best parts of Fate is there's not a lot of math. They tried to do even less math.
Well, Accelerated, it's always like that anyway. Like there's definitely different versions of, you know, the core and Accelerated. So one is, I don't want to say dumbed down, but simplified definitely. I've had a lot of fun using Fate Accelerated. I've only played Fate core like one time, but, you know, either, you know, one is just has a lot more optional rules that you can kind of bolt onto it. So for the Dresden stuff, what contributions did you make for the art?
Well, we did the Kickstarter last year for the Dresden Files co-op card game, and I essentially did all of the artwork in that game, which was like 140 pieces of art. So that was the bulk of my year last year. I was just working on that. And
the cards for that are amazing. I actually really like how for your heroes, they're double-sided, but, you know, you put them together and they actually form you know, one shot, one print, if you will. I actually did back the Kickstarter for that in its, you know, full entirety, and I've enjoyed playing the game. So I love co-op games. I love games that, you know, you're not versus each other, you're versus the game itself. And, you know, I think it's well put together, and it gives you a Dresden Styles feel.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed just with the overall design of the game. What's amazing to me is how much replayability it has, just because, you know, the way when you play through the different books in the series, the way those decks, the way the cards land on the board before you play, depending on what characters you got and what cards you draw, you're going to have a completely different experience each time.
I would say exactly that. You know, different characters have different strengths or assets to be able to manipulate the layout, and if you don't have you know, a way to change something, you know, even if you're playing it on the easiest version and the easiest story, it can still be like, okay, well, this is just impossible, we're gonna lose.
Yeah, it gets hard really fast. It's not an easy game,
but it's a quick playthrough, and it's enjoyable.
So
and there's also
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's all kinds of, if it plays well if you don't know the books, because a lot of my family members have not read any of the Dresden Files stuff, but there's a whole other layer to the flavor text if you have read them. So it's just, I don't know, it's like Easter eggs for the people that know the material.
So you've done a bunch of Dresden Files art now. What are your favorite pieces?
What are my favorite what?
Pieces that you've done?
Oh man. Well, one that I specifically asked Fred if we could do was Dresden in the cheesy vampire costume. That's I've wanted an excuse to draw that scene since I first read it, so that was great. I really like monsters, so I was really happy with the ghouls and the three Billy Goats Gruff. Like those guys turned out pretty good, I thought. I don't know. Waldo's always fun to draw. He's a hoot. Harry's always. I mean, I don't know. I have so much love for all the characters. They're all fun to work on.
Do you have a favorite character from the series?
I waffle on that. I really like Michael, but then I know in my heart I'm just Butters.
Really? Okay. So without going into spoilers for those that haven't read through the books.
They've been around a long time now. I have very little sympathy.
What do you think about the direction that they're going with Butters?
Oh, that's super exciting! I can't wait to see how that plays out.
It's going to go horribly wrong at some point. You just know it.
Well, yeah, it's Dresden Files.
But that's the great part is the roller coaster ride up until it does go horribly wrong and the wheels come off the wagon.
Do you have a favorite overall book?
I really like. I'm a big fan of Grave Peril because that's the one that introduces Michael, and I feel like that's sort of the buddy cop story where like that's where Harry gets somebody that's really got his back, and I feel like it establishes sort of the family vibe of the group. And then Changes is awesome. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about that book, but I just started re-listening to it while we're actually working on the expansions right now for Dresden Files. So
cool. I absolutely love all the books. I don't think there's a bad one in the lot. So, Comic Book University, Dresden versus Potter, the Harry battle. Who wins? That's not even a contest. You might as well throw Voldemort in there to just make it at least, and then Dumbledore, so you can at least make it a little bit of a challenge.
You got 7 books versus 15 books. I mean, like it's. The Harry Potter books are great. I'm reading them to my son now, who's 9. So it's very good for younger crowd. But once you've read Harry Potter and you love it, and you're older, okay, now's the time to introduce Dresden and really get into it and really enjoy it. And I love it.
Alan is talking smack in the chat. Harry,
of course he is.
Single battle alone.
What was that?
Harry couldn't win a single battle alone.
Which Harry?
Well, that's a good question, but I think he's talking about Dresden, or maybe he's talking about Potter. But even Dresden, when he gets into fights, he is literally always punching above his weight class, and still manages to win somehow.
Yep.
That's one of the best parts of his character.
Yeah, he takes a beating. He just keeps going.
He's like the Wolverine of the wizard world.
I feel like I really enjoy the Harry Potter books, but I feel like as a magic system, it's a little wishy-washy. There doesn't feel like that. It's not defined very very much as far as versus like in the Dresden Files stuff. You get a pretty good understanding of the mechanics of how everything's supposed to happen. So I would say, if Dresden had been taking a beating, then maybe Harry Potter and Voldemort could take him out.
All right, so here's the thing: when you have a novel written by a gamer and you have a novel written by a single mother, it's going to be approached by a different standpoint. So, of course, Butcher is going to look at, oh, well, I play D&D and I do LARP, so I understand the concept of, well, this is more difficult for me to actually manage or master, whereas literally in Harry Potter, all you need to know is like rote memorization. Here's how you do this spell, and anybody can do it, you just have to know it. So. And
more to the point, I don't think Harry would do much to fight a kid.
Well,
he'd figure out a way to shut it down or just gate out of there.
Well, I guess one of the cool things about the Harry Dresden and the Dresden verse is kind of what you kind of like kind of alluded to, like how well the magic system is defined, and we know that through the character, and we know that through the character because he's a huge freaking nerd. Like essentially, that's what it is. He likes to nerd out about magic, so that's kind of how like you learn about it going through the books. So it feels very authentic and organic when you're learning how magic works in that world.
Yeah, if you had the Harry Potter story written by Hermione, maybe you might get a similar standpoint or similar viewpoint. You could have that still. Oh well, here's what I'm learning, and here's how I'm learning it, and what have you. I think that would produce a similar comparison.
So we actually played a Dresden Files game without the Dresden File RPG. Our first endeavor into tabletop gaming with Dresden Files was Mutants and Masterminds. I think the book had just come out, but we were already playing Mutants and Masterminds, and we just like shifted.
Oh, nice.
So it was okay. Do we want to learn a new rule set, or do we want to use the rule set that we've already been playing and just move forward? And we opted for the latter. And I've heard a lot of good things about the Dresden Files RPG in Fate, and it's been out there on my peripheral, and I've got to get it now. I've got to run the way it was intended to do, because I was the one that actually ran the Dresden Files games. I absolutely love it, and I'm constantly biting at the bit to be like, okay, when is the next book coming out? When do we get more? For years, every time I hear that the new book is coming out, I honestly, I tell work I'm taking a day off, and like I'm at the I read the sample chapters the night before, because Jim Butcher usually puts them out on his website. And I won't read them one by one. I'll wait till, all right, it's the day before. He usually does 4 or 5. I'll grab them, and then I'm at the bookstore. Like, I forget pre-order, because, I don't know what time UPS would show up to deliver it. I need it as soon as I possibly can. So I'm at the bookstore. I'm buying it, and I'm just reading all day.
The ritual.
It's a little easier. It's a little easier for me. I turned my studio mates on to the audiobooks years ago. So whenever the new one comes out, we always, one of us downloads it, and then we listen to it as a group, which makes it take a while, because we all have to be in the room at the same time. But I kind of dig that, because if I was just reading it, I would go home and I'd read it in a day and it'd be over. But this draws it out over the course of a week or more.
Well, I have all the audio as well. I've greatly enjoyed those. And I tend to read the book first, because I can get through it quicker, and then I'll go through the the audio as the second time. I mean, I literally have got Deadbeat here as I was listening to it recently.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Deadbeat is my favorite book. I just think there's nothing wrong. Well, I mean, most of them there's nothing wrong with, but Deadbeat just shines for me. But yeah. That
does have cool villains, and a dinosaur.
And a dinosaur.
It does have a dinosaur.
So how did you get hooked, or how did you get indoctrinated to the Dresden verse?
I saw the TV show, and it's not a good adaptation of the books, but I really love it, because it was good enough that I went, oh, that was neat. I want to spend more time in that setting. So I went out and bought the first book, and was like, oh, this is fantastic. So I was all in after that.
I had a friend who we were always reading books, and I had suggested, here, why don't you read this series? I don't even know what I turned him on towards, but he's like, here, I think you'll enjoy this book, and he hands me Stormfront. And this was when they had the old covers. So here's you've got the house on the lake with the lightning bolt. The name doesn't grab me. The picture doesn't grab me. That's usually my first 2 tests. does the name sound, interesting? Does the front cover art, does it grab me? Both of those failed. I turn it over and I read the back cover, and I'm mildly interested. So initially, I just wasn't in. So I am like, here, babe, hand it to my wife. And I'm like, Will says this is a good book. She reads twice as fast as I do. I'm like, let me know what you think. So she reads it. 2 days later, she's like, yeah, you need to read this. And I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to pick up the next ones. And ever since, we were hooked. This was prior to, well before the TV show. And we wound up bringing the books with us on our honeymoon because we were flying out to California and then out to Hawaii. So we knew we had lots of time that, we're just going to be sitting and waiting. So we actually both wound up reading, a full book, just on the flights. So it was definitely engrossing, definitely interesting. And I find it amusing that it failed all of my tests, but it had me hooked, right from the beginning.
And what are your tests, Ted?
Oh, what is the title of the book? Is that really going to grab me? The cover art, is that gonna grab me? Like it's gotta take you to the next thing. And if the title name doesn't have me and the cover art doesn't have me, I usually have no reason to to turn it over and read the back cover. And it's only because my friend Will said this is a good book that I actually read the back to have any kind of hook sunk. But once I actually started reading, as I said, I've been a fan for many years now. So,
Tyler, you need Ted to go out there and preach for you.
Yeah.
But exactly, like the art is so important if the art's not there. I actually only read it because Ted forced me to after a couple of years. The urban fantasy, the concept just didn't interest me for a long time. And then once I started reading, I was hooked. So
I guess I've always liked urban fantasy. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, even like a lot of horror movies are basically urban fantasy, but like Something Wicked This Way Comes. I remember being a kid and like, oh, there's like magic in an amusement park, and this is crazy.
Yeah, as a kid, that movie freaked me out. I like, nope, don't like it.
Or there's another movie. It's not awesome, but it's got a lot of elements that I really like. It's called Cast a Deadly Spell, and it's
I'm familiar with that one.
It's kind of it's like a 40s detective movie, but there's lots of magic is commonplace, and the main character is the one dude that doesn't use magic. So he's the one guy in the show that lights his cigarettes with matches instead of just his hand. So it's neat. It's got a lot of, like I said, it's got a lot of good elements to it.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds familiar, but I'm fairly certain I have not seen it.
So, do you read any of Jim's other stuff?
I have not read the Codex Alera series. We started listening to it, and for some reason, the audiobook of that just did not grab me. But I did listen to the Cinder Spires, and that was pretty awesome. I was telling David earlier, as a cat person, you can't read that and not love it. If you've lived with a cat, you're gonna love the cats in that, if nothing else.
Yes, the cats are quite fantastic in that. I read that one. Again, it was Butcher, so I got it. First day, and like I've been, I'm a huge Dresden fan. Above and beyond, I think Dresden is the best things that he's put out, and it's quite prolific. But like, we've been waiting for Peace Talk so long that I'm like, I don't even know how long it's been, but he's not going to write any more Cinder Spire until he does the next Dresden book. So I can recall when he was literally releasing every 6 months. You did a Dresden book, and then we got a Codex Alera book. So twice a year I was getting Butcher, and now I've been waiting too long.
That is a grueling schedule. Can't imagine writing 2 books a year.
He's a beast.
Yeah, the Codex Alera though, it starts off a little bit slow and then really gets rolling as it progresses through the series. So if you get a chance, that's definitely worth giving it another shot for sure. By the time I wish he would do more in that world, but like Ted said, we just need to get through peace talks first.
So do you have any other projects or things coming up on the horizon, Tyler?
Well, like I said, I'm working on the expansion for the Dresden Files card game right now. So that'll take us up through the next 4 books. So I get to draw some cool stuff from like changes and ghost story and skin game.
Now, is that going to go Kickstarter, or is that going to go release straight to retail?
I think it's just going to be straight to retail. I don't believe they're Kickstarting.
Okay. Picking your brain for information, because like I said, I enjoy the game. Is there an estimated when they want that done by, or when they want to put it out?
Shoot for next spring. So yeah, I'm gonna be cranking out a lot of artwork between now and the end of the year, trying to get that ready to go. So
that's good. If you like doing things like eating, right?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to hint at any of the characters or cards or anything that you're doing with that?
Well, if you've read any of those last 4 books, then yeah, like all your favorite scenes from those books, like all the iconic stuff will be in there. So
okay.
You get to see Harry looking a little different.
Nice. So we do a roll call here about halfway through. We're just about there. So if you guys want to kick off the roll call, also, like I said, Evil Hat has given us 2 different things to give away: the co-op game as well as the Fate Accelerated rulebook. And we're going to be picking those winners out of the chat. So you want to get something in the chat. I'm probably just going to randomly move my mouse around and not look at the chat, and wherever it lands is going to be one of them. Yeah, I'll do that twice and get winners. So, if you want to be eligible to win, get get something in the chat so we can randomly select you from. But again, roll call, guys. Where are you hailing from? Where are we weighing in from today? We got Poison with Kuwait in the house. Thomas is in Oslo, Norway. AJ Kinney, Lopez Island, Washington. Cincinnati, Ohio with Eric. Utah with Virgilio. We got Indy in the house with Jason Lapel. We've got Rich from Niagara Falls. We've got Canada in the house with Titan. Frigginator is in Marysville, Washington. We've got West Georgia with Brian. Lincoln in Sweden. Minnesota with BJ. AJ Kinney with Pick Me is not a place. We've got Alan in Chicago. We've got Oklahoma in the house with Cody Sam. Gelatinous Cube is in Canada.
We got Casper Oja from Finland. We got
I saw that. I was just okay, from Finland. I was like reading it all together.
We got Sprain Ogre in Minnesota as well. We got Ivanovich in Singapore. Ranger Roy in Missouri. Wilder Smith in New York. Kevin in Boston. Somebody else was weighing in from Boston as well. And Andrew. We got Raven in Emerald City. Aaron in Seattle. Brian in New York City. We got Next Level 88 in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. Andrew in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it just won't stop jumping.
Pod 6 Podcast, South Carolina. We got Florida in the house with Nuke Age 219. I'm glad you didn't get the win. Dave W is in Portland, Maine.
Justin in Sierrio. Megasus in Tacoma, Washington. And lots of people weighing in for, free things, Pick Me, free stuff.
Did Evil Hat put any restrictions on that?
They didn't say anything to me, so this is your show.
Well, I only ask because our audience is international, and we personally, when we do contests, we ship international and just eat it. But
Yeah, literally in the past couple of months, I've sent stuff to New Zealand and Germany, and
I think we've sent stuff to New Zealand, Germany, Australia, England. I mean, you know better than me, Ted. You do all the shipping for Nerdarchy.
I do.
So, which is cool. I mean, we really enjoy the fact that we get people all over the world chiming in to talk about nerdy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I don't want to ever discourage any of our awesome within the States fans, but it is great to sit back and realize, like, all right, we got people in Sweden and Denmark and Kuwait, UK, Australia, Germany, frequently weighing in. Hey, this is going on. I'm watching from here. It's 2 a.m. here.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I was going to say, what time is it in Singapore right now?
That's what I'm always kind of like baffled by. So hey, whenever you want, one of you guys can tell me to stop someplace.
Me or Tyler, or are you talking about them?
No, you or Tyler.
All right, so
the random scrolly thing.
All right, so I'm going to say stop.
All right, where are we at? We are in Titan the Druid. Potter has infinite spells, bro. So Titan the Druid, if you're still there here, email us.
Nerdarchy@gmail.com.
Nerdarchy@gmail.com. And then we'll figure out how this thing works. So we'll give them away in the order they were listed to us, which was the co-op game and the Fate Accelerated book. So in a little bit, we will also give away the other thing, the rule book for the Fate Accelerated. So hopefully, Titan, you're still here.
Hopefully you're still here. Hopefully you enjoy awesome card games.
Yeah. Well, the thing is pretty big. Like, if nothing else, you could definitely use it for like a doorstop.
Ouch.
So, going back to earlier, you had mentioned that you'd watch the Dresden Files TV show, and then that made you pick up the books. What was the transition like going in that direction? I know what it's like going in the other. I literally, for years, we didn't have cable. We just didn't watch TV, and it was the Dresden Files TV show that made me give in and sign up for it. Like,
any regrets?
Nothing I'm gonna really talk about on air.
It was, for me, it was the biggest challenge was it took me about 4 books to start seeing Murphy as a short blonde instead of a tall brunette.
Okay.
Like that, and it was really distracting. But other than that, it was all pretty much 1-to-1. It didn't.
Okay. So I felt that, especially going back and listening or reading multiple times. I know this is something that Dave never really got into. He reads something and then it's shove it aside. I go back to the things that I really enjoy over and over again. But I've heard Jim's story about how he had the first 3 books written before he had the series sold. And like, I see that it's not until you get to Summer Night that we really see the world take off that he's written. Do you agree with that as well, or do you like? I know you said you were hooked from book 1.
Yeah, well, no, definitely from Summer Night. That's where it starts to go away from the noir detective aspect and gets more into like, I'm a full-on wizard dealing with giant, important, literally earth-shattering things. So yeah, that's where it kind of blows up. Actually, for me, it's halfway through the second book where there's the scene in the police station where he ends up blowing the loot guru, which is, for those of you who haven't read it, is a giant werewolf. He blows it all the way through a wall, and like, in my mind, it was like he went flying several blocks from the blast. And I went, wow, you just took the power level from here to way up here all of a sudden. So that, for me, that scene is where it starts to really figure out what it is, and then and then third book on, you can tell it's really got its identity at this point.
One of my favorite lines is from that book, Full Moon, when they're talking about the wall around Marcone's place, and you know, and when it's getting explained, and it's like he won't even know there was a wall in his way. It's like paraphrasing, but that was like one of my favorite lines from the whole book or the whole series. And I wish that character would come back too.
The
character,
I forget the name of the
FBI agents.
No, the mentor that mentored the werewolves.
Oh yeah, I forget her name too.
Yeah, you know, because there's definitely a lot more going on with that character, and we never saw her again. You know, like 10 books.
Yeah, that is, I mean, more than 10 books. I mean, we've got, you know, Peace Talks is book 16, and that was book 2, right? Full Moon.
Yeah.
So, like, Tara West, hey, thank you. So, Ivanovich Lee, you are awesome for knowing that. It's been a while, you know, since I've you know, read or listened to the early books. You know, the last time I decided to put them on, I kind of started at book 7. I'm like, I
think that's one of the things I really enjoy about the series. I think there's a lot of characters that have made appearances that we're going to see a lot more of at some point. I'm really hoping, I'm a dragon guy, so I'm really hoping the dragon from the first book, that was at the party.
Yeah.
I'm really, really hoping we get to see some more of that guy at some point.
Yeah, you want to hope that it was cool foreshadowing and not just, I'll put this cool thing in here.
Yeah.
But, you know, what was it in book 1 or 2 that we hear about Santa Claus, and then, you know, eventually we get to meet Santa Claus?
That is true.
The badass fairy.
Yep.
Yeah, that was always good.
So, yeah, I imagine like there's going to be some epic final battle.
And there we go. Ivanovich is, you know, teaming in again. Ferrovax.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's either got a really good memory, read this stuff recently, or he's really fast on Google.
Either way, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, in that book, you know, Michael says like, "Oh, well, you know, I was the one that defeated, you know, Saravax, or you know, what a, you know, the other dragon." That's a short story I'd like to, you know, to really get into. We got the short version because that's how he wound up meeting his wife. But I would have liked to really get an in-depth story.
Well, I would love for him to kick off some other book series in the Dresden verse that don't involve Dresden.
And you've got enough awesome characters to be able to do it. And I mean, we've gotten stories from, you know, short stories from Thomas's and Murphy's and Molly's perspective. But I mean, you could do so much with it. You know, what about you know, Carlos? He's a fantastic character. I think he's you know, good enough that you could really go in depth with him, and you wouldn't need to cross over into Chicago and, you know, get Harry involved. You know, California. What's it like being a wizard in Hollywood?
I'd be happy with. There could be a whole miniseries just of Kincaid. Like, what the hell's that guy do when he's not on stage?
I was actually going to say I would like to see some of the exploits of Mort personally.
Yeah.
Especially in Ghost Story, where they start like breaking out some of his other abilities. That's way cool.
Well, I mean, you know, initially he was, you know, kind of, you know, a blasé shyster, but it literally took Harry to shake him up that actually moved him in that direction. So.
Well, yeah, and not only that, it was kind of interesting in the sense that it seemed like he was actually way more powerful than even Harry thought he was.
Right.
You know, he had just been kind of, you know, strangling off his own power the whole time, which is all pretty cool. Nicodemus spinoff. That'd be some dark shit. I don't know if I need to read that.
Oh, since you mentioned Nicodemus, I want to point out that if you look at the Dresden Files card game art, I actually cast Nicodemus as Paul Blackthorne because I wanted a nod to the TV show, so I drew him to look like him, because I think he would be the guy that played Harry Dresden in the TV show. So
wow,
I thought he was.
I'm gonna have to go look at the cards and see that. That's pretty awesome.
I think he'd be a good fit for the character, so it'd be cool.
So you said that you're actually, playing in a Dresden Files, RPG with the Fate system. What are you playing?
Let's see. Oh, I made a.
Or are you the GM?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not organized enough to run a game. I can show up and play. That's it. I made a. I forget the class. It's been a few weeks since or a few months since we've played that game. But I made basically he's a avatar of Odin. So he's a MMA former MMA boxer that's got is missing an eye, and he gets visions to send him on quests. He's a big, strong guy, so I play the tough. I go in and punch stuff.
So does the GM actually bring anything from the actual novels into your guy's story, or is it totally just his own, his own setting? Like where are you guys at?
Yeah, no, I'm in Des Moines, so we did we built Supernatural Des Moines, and there's got all the factions worked out for the different areas of town.
Nice.
There's a lot of original stuff, but then there's, we did a raid through Fairy once. We we had to go through and we had to rescue somebody, and we ended up putting up a veil and going through and essentially starting a food fight while all these fairy soldiers were like having a feast, and we started a fight. We did a let's you and him fight, and we used all the chaos as a distraction to get the thing out that we needed to get.
Nice.
And then we did a lot of running.
That sounds like a typical Dresden story.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good.
It's like the best part was like when Dresden becomes a runner, like in the book series, it's like I get chased by a lot of monsters, so I need to just be faster. I was disappointed in Ted's game because he never brought up the Jersey Devil.
Oh.
It seems like a must.
It was it was on the agenda. Like so many of our old games, we were running weekly, and DM burnout happens, and that was one of those things. So like I need a break, and then we just never went back to that story.
Well,
it's funny. Player
shuffle.
Oh.
It's funny you mentioned the part about Dresden like practicing running because he needs to get better at it. That scene in the books is actually why I started working out, because I went, oh, it's a decision you have to make for yourself. You have to decide to go do it. Up until then, I thought there's people that exercise and people that don't, and I was just one that didn't. And I was like, oh wait, no, you can decide that for yourself.
I thought you were going to tell me you wanted to be able to get away from monsters too.
My monsters are all internal, man. You can't outrun them.
The scene that him and Thomas run on the beach, I think, was one of the biggest impactful moments of the entire series.
Yeah, it's really good.
When you get a chance, Ted, give me another stop.
Okay. And stop.
Zareth Gaming. We'll get the Fate Accelerated Dresden Files rulebook. So cool. Zareth's a regular. Congrats. Zareth, make sure you email us at nerdarchy@gmail.com, or I'll harass you on every live chat. So that worked out really well. There's a couple of people that it seemed like if we called their names, they'd be like ringers. So, Dave Bryant, who's this guy?
That'll be easy shipping.
Yeah. So you also let's see.
So Titan the Druid has already emailed us.
Cool. So you also, we can kind of mention this now, but we're going to probably have you back, later on to talk about it in depth. But you're also going to be launching a Kickstarter before too long.
Yeah, I've got a creator-owned project I'm working on. It's called Blood of Dragons. It's my own urban fantasy setting. The basic premise is that dragons have conquered many different worlds, and now they're trying to make their way to modern-day Earth. And there's a secret society of mages and mystical warriors that are fighting to keep them at bay. So it's got magic, martial arts, machine guns, and dragons.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
So
the Kickstarter is going to be for the first art book in the series. It's kind of collecting all the preliminary stuff I've been working on, and after the Kickstarter is over and I get that all shipped, then I'm going to start working on the online comic that'll start telling stories in the setting.
So is it an art book, and you can put that setting in any rules verse, or are you actually having information to port it to a particular rule set?
Right now it's just an art book. So if people wanted to use some of the stuff in it in their games, that would work. I've had some publishers talk to me already about maybe doing something, but I want to get the first story arc for the setting, for the comic done, because that's going to be what really sets the table for the setting. So that'll be down the road a ways, maybe next year, then I can start looking at making a game out of it.
Are you going to be doing the writing as well as the art, or just the art?
No, I'm going to be writing it as well. Okay. So I've not written anything before. That's why, honestly, that's why I'm doing it as a comic instead of like a book.
Yeah.
I figure if I can make it pretty enough, people will stick around. So, but the look of the comic will be kind of fun because I want to make it look like animation cells from cartoons I watched in the 80s, like Thundercats and Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that. So it'll be painted backgrounds with cel-shaded main characters. So it should be pretty fun. And really, it's all just an excuse for me to draw dragons.
Is that what the bulk of the book is going to be, dragons?
Yeah, it's going to be, there's going to be a section of finished illustrations. You can see some of that stuff on bloodofdragons.net. A little bit of writing to go with those. And I got a bunch of digital sketches as well as pencil sketches, which I do on my Instagram feed. There's I post a lot of daily sketches for my sketchbook. So I'm producing those.
Yeah, definitely recommend checking out the Blood of Dragons site. It is awesome.
We also have your Twitter and the Tumblr link you gave me in the description, so if people want to check out what you got going on. I'm going to go to your Instagram though, and I'm going to add that link too to the description if people want to follow you on Instagram.
Instagram's my favorite.
What was that?
I said Instagram's my favorite because it's all visuals, so very little politics on it, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a little harder to get the politics in. They have to work harder at it.
Yeah, people try, but it doesn't really take off like it does on some of the other ones.
Yeah. All right, I have successfully stalked you and found you.
And we got Xerath Gaming has contacted us, so we have all the information we need.
Nice. Now we just have to figure out what to do with it.
I'll put you in contact with the Evil Hat peeps. So.
Yeah, that works. I've actually talked to them before, trying to get some folks on to talk about some RPG stuff. But I've been trying to get Fred, but he's kind of busy.
Yeah,
Fraginator just wants a dragon to ride. Tyler, you have any giveaways of dragons to give to our fans?
Not today.
Yeah, that was yesterday's giveaway, guys. You just missed it.
Man, we got him on the wrong day.
Oops. So now the Instagram should be in there as well, so they can stalk you in all the places.
I manage our Instagram account, so I'm watching and liking and whatnot all of your stuff. So I see it. Dave just doesn't.
Well, thank you.
I'm peeking over there as well. I'm everywheres. I'm like Big Brother. No, the Instagram is like the playground for the artist. You do Pinterest as well?
No,
No,
I can't. I've tried, and that set just frustrates me, especially on mobile. I'm like, oh, that image is cool. I want to see it, and you click on it, and it's like, here's a bunch of images related to that. Just makes me angry. I want to know who that artist was, but I can't.
No, we're not gonna let you have that.
Pod 6 podcast. I just want to slay orcs and rock to Manowar. That brings back some memories.
Comic University says we have a secret live chat on Sundays. Well, we actually did do a live chat last night at 8 o'clock. Third Sunday of the month is supposed to be our hangout with the 9 of the Nag, and 2 months in a row, the 9 of the Nag were not available. So Nate and I just kind of hung out and talked about stuff and answered questions and what have you.
Those guys hung out in their honor.
Yes.
So I guess you said you're pretty much booked up for a little while. What is there any projects out there you haven't worked on that you'd be really excited to, or is the next big thing for you doing your Kickstarter and kind of like building out your world and your story?
I'm really hoping that next year Blood of Dragons is going to be more or less my full-time thing. I just did my first couple of Magic cards, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm pretty excited to finally get a foot in the door there. So if they, I probably wouldn't turn down work from them. And then I'm also doing some Hearthstone cards here or there. And
cool.
There's two things that I have yet to do in my career that I really want to, which is, so I've worked for Marvel. I did a lot of stuff for the, like as a promotional artist for the movies, for the properties. So it was a lot of the stuff that they use on the packaging and whatnot. But I still haven't done any covers for the comics, which is something I've wanted to do for a long time. So
all right. So who's your dream? If you could just pick, what's the cover you want to do?
Oh, like a character?
Yes.
Well, I still really like monsters, so doing Venom, kind of Venom would be cool.
Okay.
They just did this whole Venom-verse thing where they had all these different characters with the Venom symbiote on it. I'm like, oh, that would have been, missed my boat. That would have been cool.
I'll have to check that out. That seems.
And then the other thing is I have yet to do an actual beer label. I do, if you guys go to Gen Con, I actually do the Pathfinder. They do a beer in conjunction with Scotty's Pub every year, and I always do the label art for that, but it's not actually on a beer bottle. It's just printed on T-shirts. So I'm like, I'm beer label adjacent.
Yeah. Can we get one beer label? Just one beer label. It's asking too much.
So yeah, but really the goal is I want to, I've been doing freelance for so long that I had somebody that asked if they could license some art from me, and I started looking through my portfolio, and I was like, I don't own any of this. Oh, which made me a little sad. So I'm really hoping Blood of Dragons, like I said, becomes kind of the thing that I'm working on all the time.
Well, we'll definitely have to check it out. So I definitely find that with our crowd, you definitely, if you can throw a PDF in there involving RPGs, it definitely pushes the envelope a little bit. Both Metal Weave Games and Crystal Sully did 2 different monster books.
Oh yeah.
And then they added one of the things they added was PDFs of monster stats for D&D. So I found that's really cool. And I just kind of like the concept of getting this thing that's an art book that you can sit on your coffee table, and and then also having the stats that you can take into your game if you want to. Yeah, it's really neat. So if you decide that D&DI is any of your stuff in there, I definitely know there's a market for it in a crowd of people.
I have to keep that in mind.
Or even if you went in the direction of Fate, And you know, like Crystal Sully's thing was a stretch goal, and I think the Metal Weave games for the Atlas Animalia, I believe it was as well. You know, but to just be able to offer the PDF, it's going to bring it to a whole new market. And you know, as Dave says, people are very inclined to be like, oh, I get new mechanics, or I get new choices, or I get things, and then you have a book that could literally be something that can be used in the game without any actual mechanics or information that can spoil the game. So now you'd be like, all right, you find this book. All right, well, wow, this is really interesting. It's got a lot of information, but nothing mechanical to give away stuff to your players.
Yeah, now that we've seen the idea a couple of times, we're trying to make it a thing.
I knew Crystal did that for her book. I didn't realize. I thought it was actually going to be in the book. I didn't realize it was like a PDF that was separate from it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I feel like there's some advantages to it, you know, from a game standpoint, but also from distribution of less physical stuff that has to be printed and worked out. So I think it works out pretty well. So
they're now talking about D&D themed booze in the chat.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So you talked about comic books. Are you following any comic books currently?
I'm a little behind on my reading list, but there's a one that I'm really into right now. It's called Birthright, which is it's another urban fantasy. Basically, this kid goes missing when he's really young, and people it tears apart the family as they suspect the dad of foul play and stuff. But really, what happened is he stumbled through a portal to another dimension, and then he comes back a couple of years later, but time has moved differently where he was. So he comes back as full-on Conan. He's a giant barbarian dude that was like the conquering hero that took out the bad guy of the place where he was. And so he shows up with a duffel bag full of axes and swords and magical items, and it's a little bonkers. And then the twist at the end of the first issue is turns out he didn't actually beat the bad guy. The bad guy is living in his brain. So
I thought you were gonna say it's his dad.
Yeah, Dad's a good guy. He's on the up and up.
So
the art on it's beautiful. It's an image book.
Our resident comic book guy, Comic Book University. Nice, third issue number 24 right now. I haven't been reviewing it, so I think he might have just been turned on to a new comic book.
What's the name of that series?
It's called Birthright. I forget the name of the creators right now, but it's beautiful. The artwork's really great. It's right up my alley.
You said it's an Image title?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I gave up on comic books probably about 20 years ago. So now I get my fix through movies.
Yeah, most of the books I'm drawn to anymore are Image books or independent books, because I know basically what I'm going to get every month, because it's the same creators every time. And plus with Marvel and DC, I'm multiple universe reboots behind. I don't know what's going on. I'm lost. Yeah, I feel like an old man. Explain comics to me.
Yeah. For me, it's just I'm kind of an all or nothing guy. So if I start buying comics, it wouldn't be a comic. It'd be a stack of comics, and before you know it, it's $200-300 a month.
I do know that drinking and using the Comixology iPad app at the same time is a bad combination. Because you get to the end of the book and you're like, yeah, I need more of that book. And you just swipe and buy it now.
Yeah.
It's easy to spend a lot of money.
Before you know it, how did I just spend $1,200?
My favorite Image title from back in the days of me reading comics was Shadowhawk.
Oh yeah,
read that one.
Oh yeah, I read all the early Image stuff, man. That was
I think I was picking up. They were all on my pull lists until I finally cut the cord and been like, this is ridiculous. I'm picking up way too many titles. I was like, I should probably just take up a drug habit or something. Save some money. That's actually interesting. Alan's saying get the Marvel Universe app, $75 a year.
Yeah, it's like unlimited comics.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of freaking comics.
Yeah.
It's not a bad price. $75 a year. I could spend that in a month, a week. Especially now. What do comic books cost now? $5-6?
I think standard cover price is pretty close to $4 anymore.
Yeah. And I guess when I started, they were like 75 cents or something.
Yeah, I remember saying that 75 cents to $1 range.
Yeah.
For me as well.
Well, yeah, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was all the still 99 cents, like really big up in the corner.
Yeah. Of course, we're going to do 10 variant covers. So now you're going to spend you're actually going to spend $10 for the same book.
Yeah.
See, and therein lies the problem. I couldn't just get one. I had to get all the variant covers. So, what are you going to do? We're actually just over the hour mark. Wow. Raven says $15 plus in Australia. That's nuts.
Whoa.
You got to really, really want to read.
Whoa. That's brutal.
That's like a novel, man. Like, I don't know whether I could do $15 for a single comic book.
But with that, like I said, we're at the hour mark. I want to thank you for coming on, Tyler. We're going to have you back on when you do your Kickstarter. Then you can really delve into that with us and whatever other nerdy things we come up with. Thanks for hanging out with me today, Ted. And thank you for everybody in the chat hanging out. You're greatly appreciated. And you guys at One Stuff, we'll see about getting that to you as soon as possible. With that, guys, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.